Wall Street, the center of our financial world, a place where a solid, if not spectacular, return on investment is the holy grail. But give us a few minutes and we're going to tell you about a place where you can invest your money for a virtually guaranteed and significant return. We're talking insulation. Now, granted, insulation is not the sexiest subject you're likely to discuss during the course of your day, but if you can increase the bottom line performance and revenue of your company, well, isn't that sexy enough? Look, we know your time is valuable, but a tour through the video features provided on this site are going to demonstrate a few simple truths to you. Number one, if you don't spend a great deal of time discussing what proper insulation can mean to your refining or manufacturing facility, you're not alone. When companies plan their annual budgets, they almost always allocate dollars to core assets. Since your facility is likely already up and running, insulation and energy management are really considered non-core assets. However, poor or no insulation at all is costing you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars each and every day. These are dollars you can never get back. We're going to show you why it makes operational, financial, and environmental sense to at least address the possibility of better energy efficiency and management through insulation. Number two, we're going to tell you about a Department of Energy approved evaluation audit and computer program that can tell you how many energy dollars are evaporating into thin air, the type and amount of insulation needed to correct the problem, and how quickly the project will pay for itself. Number three, we're going to give you some ideas on how you can begin to fix your insulation problem without even dipping into operating capital if you don't want to. Number four, we're going to tell you about some forward-thinking companies that are well down the road towards improved energy efficiency and are saving big bucks as a result. And number five, we'll tell you how an insulation project designed and installed by craftsmen and women who are the products of years of formal industry training will maximize every dollar you spend. Insulation may not be the talk of Wall Street, but investing in it pays you back many times over. When you do it, tell the world. It'll go over great with environmentalists and the green movement. In fact, why not tell your stockholders too? Anything you can do to improve the bottom line with documentable savings and appeal to the green movement sweeping the country just might be sexier news than you think. In virtually any manufacturing and production situation, heat is the catalyst that turns raw materials into finished products. And since large plants require large amounts of energy to operate, conventional wisdom would tell you that a high priority is placed on insulation to harness as much of that heat as possible. Wrong. In fact, recent research by an industry leader concluded that 63% of energy projects with a payback of less than 3 years are never initiated. Perhaps that's because historically, when the cost of energy was inexpensive, no one really cared how much energy was lost in the manufacturing or refining process. And when you throw in a if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, you can see why things like improving insulation are not high on the budget list. But when you consider that the utility cost of a plant these days can run 50% or more of its entire operating expense, maybe you should give insulation another, more serious look. We recently took a walk around an industrial facility to look for random examples of heat loss, losses that drain dollars from company coffers, like a silent bandit. Chris Kahn has the report.
In any manufacturing or refining scenario, a company's cost is impacted significantly by the amount of energy used in its production process. The loss of heat means the loss of manufacturing capacity, which means the loss of profit. And often you can see those profits floating away right before your very eyes. This is Keith Wagner, a representative of the iSave team. In his hand is a heat gun. He points the gun, pulls the trigger, and a laser shoots where he's aiming. The gun gives him a reading of how hot this target is. The hotter the target, the more heat, the more money that is escaping into the air. Today, Keith's target is any pipe, drum, or valve inside this refinery. He's comparing or illustrating heat loss by taking readings between pipes with good insulation, poor insulation, or no insulation.
When we do the shooting of the poorly insulated piping, even though the piping is insulated, it needs some work to be done it registers approximately 50 degrees Fahrenheit on the scale. When I move the gun over to the uninsulated valve, it immediately jumps up to 150 degrees, showing a dramatic heat loss. This is something you actually see, we actually visualize, and with today's rising fuel costs, it's felt in everybody's pocketbook.
The hottest part of that pipe was only 150 degrees. In truth, not that bad, but we're just getting started. The more we got into the plant, the more extreme the temperature variations were. Widespread heat loss situations like this prompted consultant engineer Mr. Gordon Hart to do a study that was published in Insulation Outlook magazine. The results would make any CEO or CFO fall right out of their chair. Using an educated set of calculations, Hart was able to show that even 1 square foot of 600-degree pipe covered with 4-inch thick insulation would save 16 barrels of oil every 5 years. Using a baseline number like $100 a barrel, that's $1,600 simply gone with only 1 square foot of exposed pipe. Now, how many square feet of poor or no insulation does the average small plant have? The number is actually in the hundreds of thousands. Now, how many plants are online with one company at any given time? That number is usually through the roof. But whatever your number is, you're definitely not alone. Because Hart didn't stop there, using his educated set of criteria and calculations, Hart estimated that in 2004 alone, U.S. oil refineries collectively lost an estimated 585,000 barrels per day due to excess energy loss through damaged or missing mechanical insulation. Using Hart's heat loss numbers from 2004 with a rough estimate of today's oil prices, the number is more than $58 million in heat loss. So, if you're ever in a position to be near a heat gun that is showing you a pipe that's 350 degrees next to an insulated pipe that's 80, don't think of it as numbers in Fahrenheit. Think of it as your money that is silently slipping out of your reach. If you'd like the details on Hart's study, make sure you pick up a copy of the May 2005 edition of Insulation Outlook magazine. Hoping you don't shoot the messenger, I'm Chris Kahn.
Thanks, Chris. Everyone knows it's not practical to take on a sweeping insulation project, one that covers every pipe and valve at every company's facilities all at once. But many large manufacturers that have begun the process are seeing immediate results, and they're ramping up their insulation upgrades. One of the tools they're using is the Department of Energy endorsed 3E Plus program. It's a way to take a look at an industrial facility and break out an energy saving plan into real numbers. It lets you see what the insulation costs are and what the savings would be. More on 3E Plus is just a click away. The North American Insulation Manufacturers Association has developed a software program designed to help you easily determine how much insulation is necessary to use less energy, reduce plant emissions, and improve process efficiency at your plant or facility. There's very little time in a manufacturing facility manager's day to look at the efficiency of the energy delivery system. Conversely, a lot of a facility's costs are directly influenced by the amount of energy used and, more importantly, lost. The 3E Plus program attacks your energy issues head-on when a certified insulation appraiser spends a couple of days in your plant and develops options on how to improve your energy efficiency. They can give you actual numbers and show you actual dollar savings. Here's how it works. Your plant energy manager will sit down with the appraiser and talk about the scope of the plant's energy usage, how the energy is distributed, and just how much your facility is spending in energy costs annually. In some cases, the appraiser and energy manager could be one and the same. Secondly, the appraiser will need to get the lay of the land at your facility, during which he or she will measure all pipes, ducts, and vessels, both insulated and non-insulated. Next comes the easy part. The computer does the work for you from here on out. The appraiser inputs the information gathered into a state-of-the-art software program. The software allows the appraiser to run a handful of different scenarios depending on your plant's energy priorities.
I'm here today to talk about NAMA's 3E Plus program. 3E Plus is a computer program that will allow you to calculate heat loss and heat gain in a piping or insulation system. 3E Plus is a simple program. It does a steady state, one-dimensional heat loss calculation of a piping or equipment system. For example, we're showing here a pipe which has 2 layers of insulation on it. It's got an inside temperature, some fluids inside. It's got an outside ambient condition. 3E Plus goes through the calculation of BTU heat loss in this system. Okay, let's assume we're talking about a steam system in a plant. We're interested in calculating the heat loss per hour. We're going to look at a pipe that might be horizontal. The program allows you to look at horizontal, vertical piping, horizontal, vertical tubing, a number of different systems. Let's stick with horizontal pipe for a second. Assuming the process temperature is 350 F, the ambient might be 75. Let's pick a pipe size of 12 inches, and let's assume the wind speed is maybe 3 miles an hour for the particular case we want to look at. The program allows us to select the material system we're interested in. The base metal here is steel. We could choose stainless steel or copper or PVC, what other materials you want. The insulation in this case, let's assume 1200 F mineral fiber, and let's assume a jacketing of aluminum with an admittance of 0.1. Simply hit the calculate button and the program will calculate the heat loss and surface temperature for a bare situation, no insulation, and a number of different thicknesses going from 1/2 inch to 10 inch. In this case, you can see that for a bare pipe, uninsulated, the surface temperature would be about 349 degrees, not 350 degrees like the fluid inside. The heat loss would be 2939 BTUs per hour per linear foot. And in a 1/2 inch, adding only a 1/2 inch of insulation to that brings that surface temperature down to 150 and reduces the heat loss to 409 per this calculation, which is about 86% less than the bare case.
Just think of how many pipes, drums, valves, or boilers you have in your facility that are like this. Think of how much money at more than $100 a barrel is vanishing into thin air in the form of heat loss. With a little homework and investment of time, you can get an energy audit of your facility, and more importantly, you'll be able to tell in raw, actual numbers just how much money you'll save and how quickly you'll save it. For more information on the 3E Plus program, just go to pipeinsulation.org. You can print out a brochure on the program, and most importantly, you can download the program for free. That's right, for free. So where's the risk? And of course, when it becomes obvious how much you can save with better insulation, let us help you. On other tiles on this site, we've shown why it pays to insulate. So why can it often be such a tough sell? Here to give us a little insight is Brian Joyce. What have you got for us, Brian?
Well, Tom, insulation work is one of those things that, to use an automotive term, goes on under the hood. It may not look very sexy at first glance, but the enhanced performance makes all the difference in the world. Large facilities usually have large lists of capital expenditures, and the problem is there's only a finite amount of money to go around. And this is where bureaucracy and red tape come in. Different departments, different managers, all lining up for their piece of the pie. Most pieces of an operating budget are usually earmarked for core assets, things like expansion projects, new machinery, or new facilities altogether. Those types of expenditures are easier sells for a company's board of directors or stockholders. And the truth is, the plant continues to run with or without energy-saving upgrades. A sort of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality. But with the price of a barrel of oil going for more than $100, companies paying any attention to the bottom line had better get creative when it comes to improving the performance of its facilities. Perhaps the best way is a way very few people ever take the time to examine closely. Outsource or finance your energy improvements. Outsourcing your projects to energy service companies benefit you in several obvious ways. With the money at your disposal, you can take on an aggressive sweeping energy saving plan right away. In other words, you can do more quicker. You can fix the cost of your improvement campaign and plan accordingly. With improved installation, your machinery will perform better and take less toll on the people working around it. You'll begin saving on your energy costs right away. And here's the biggie. Your energy savings will soon pay for the cost of the insulation upgrade. You'll pay off the note quickly and then benefit from reduced energy costs for years and years. It's good for your plant, it's good for your workers, it's good for the environment, and guess what? It's good for the bottom line.
Thanks, Brian.
You bet.
Cost savings without a big hit in capital expenditures. Upgrading or installing insulation in your facility really can be the best of both worlds. If you've spent any time on this site, you know by now that installing or improving the insulation at your facility will save you big money in energy costs. Now it's time to talk about actual case studies, and joining me with the numbers is Brian Joyce.
Thanks a lot, Tom. You know, the insulation industry is one where a person can really do the math and point to actual cost savings as a result of work being done. I have a few examples we can briefly run through with some numbers courtesy of the National Insulators Association and the Department of Energy. Now, some of these numbers are really eye-openers when you take a look at them, Tom.
Well, let's take a look at them. Let's start with the paper mill down in Jackson, Alabama with Boise Cascade.
Just by replacing pipe insulation, they spent $25,000. That's all they spent, $25,000. Their savings, $80,000, and that's a payback in less than 4 months, Tom, so it's paying for itself in 4 months.
Let's go to Kingsport, Tennessee and check in on Eastman Chemical.
Well, they took a best practice approach to insulation just by basically going through their plant and making necessary changes to maximize impact of their insulation. And get this, $1 million in identified savings with re-insulation cost of only $300,000. That's a rate of return in 4 months.
We go up to Pontiac, Michigan now to see what's up with the GM power plant.
They did the same thing. They replaced some missing insulation and other repairs. They saved roughly $298,000 a year.
All right, Indianapolis, Indiana. Coming up next, we're checking in on National Starch.
Repair and replace some insulation. Their savings, another good figure, $125,000 a year.
These are all amazing. How about the chemical plant in Texas City, Texas, belonging to Sterling Chemical?
Well, they already had some insulation. All they did was improve the insulation that they had. Their estimated savings, $123,000 a year. It is amazing, it really is. This Dow plant right here in Louisiana, look at this. Just by replacing, repairing, and improving insulation on a steam system, this is not a joke. The potential savings, $811,000 a year, almost $1 million, Tom.
Another one well into six figures, the Meade Westvaco plant down in Silsbee, Texas.
They commissioned an insulation strike team to go through their plant and repair poor and damaged missing insulation. By reducing heat loss by just 10%, almost $500,000 a year, $486,000 just by 10%.
Big companies, big savings. Let's check in with U.S. Steel, Gary, Indiana.
By proper sizing type and thickness of insulation and improving maintenance of insulation systems, their potential savings will be in excess of $1.5 million. I'm talking $1 million a year. That is a lot of money.
Let's check in with Bayer now. Huge savings in Institute, West Virginia.
Well, all they had to do was improve and replace some missing insulation. Their potential savings, here we go again, almost $1 million, $926,000 a year. So Tom, I've shown you some of the numbers of various size from a variety of different projects, but the bottom line is all these projects result is actual bottom line savings. And when we took a look at all those companies, there were some staggering numbers.
Yeah, they are impressive. Brian, it really seems like anyone who's trying to maximize the efficiency and productivity of their operations, they should be getting involved with insulation upgrades or installs.
Yeah, especially with oil right now going for $100 plus per barrel. These numbers will only get bigger and bigger.
Thanks, Brian.
You bet.
And thank you for clicking.